Hello there, my sleepy fellows. I'm glad you found your way here tonight. The world has quieted now. The sun has slipped beyond the hills, and Middle-earth breathes soft and steady beneath the silver glow of the stars. Tonight, let your thoughts drift gently west, beyond the green slopes of the Shire, past the forests and rivers, to the distant edge of the world, to the gray havens. The sea whispers there, calm, endless, where ships glide quietly toward the horizon, and beyond, what lies past that horizon, past the final shores where the elves depart, remains a mystery to many. But the land remembers, and tonight, perhaps, we'll listen. No need to hurry. We'll walk gently, softly, and let the story carry us. Shall we begin? Rest easy now, breathe slow, and let your imagination drift across the gentle lands of Middle-earth. Tonight, our quiet journey takes us west, beyond the meadows of the Shire, beyond the whispering woods of Eriador, all the way to the edge of the known world, to the gray havens. It is there, along the calm shores, that the ships of the elves glide silently from the harbor, their pale sails full with the steady sea breeze, bound for lands unseen by mortal eyes. For generations, the elves have departed from those shores, their faces calm, their hearts steady, their eyes set upon the horizon. But where do they go when the sails vanish beyond sight? What lies past the gray havens, beyond the last western waters of Middle-earth? Many have wondered, few have sought to know, and fewer still have listened closely enough to the quiet hum of the world where old stories still breathe. Tonight, we will follow one such gentle seeker, and perhaps, together, we'll glimpse the quiet mystery that lingers just beyond the shores. If you enjoy these peaceful wanderings, these soft, soothing journeys through Middle-earth, feel free to drift with us again. You can like, subscribe, or simply let your dreams carry you west whenever you wish. But for now, breathe slow. The ships are ready, the sea is calm, and the final shores await. His name was Corin, a quiet soul, never hurried, never loud, one who carried the calm patience of the sea in his step and the gentle ache of curiosity in his heart. Corin was not a hero, nor a great lord. He did not carry sword or shield, only a small pack upon his shoulder, and the quiet, steady knowledge that the world was vast, and that wonder waited softly beyond the edges of every map. He lived near the western shores, in a small stone cottage nestled along the cliffs above the gray havens. The sea was his constant companion. Each morning, he woke to its slow, rhythmic breathing, the soft crash of waves upon the distant rocks, the cool mist curling along the grassy slopes, the endless blue stretching beyond sight. The gray havens lay just beyond the hills. Corin often wandered there, not to sail, but to watch, to see the tall, slender elves boarding their ships, their cloaks fluttering softly in the sea breeze, their eyes steady, filled with the quiet weight of ages. They never looked back. The ships drifted from the harbor, their white sails full, their polished hulls gleaming beneath the pale sunlight, slipping beyond the horizon with graceful ease and vanishing into the west. And always, Corin wondered, What lay beyond those final waters? Where did the elves go when the world fell away behind them? The tales spoke of Valinor, the Undying Lands, a place of peace untouched by shadow, where the stars shone brighter and the songs never faded, but no mortal had seen it. And yet, standing upon the cliffs, feeling the steady hum of the waves beneath his boots, Corin often felt the faintest pull, not a demand, not a summons, only a quiet invitation, the kind the sea offers to those who listen, the kind that tugs softly at the corners of the heart, whispering, "There is more." The Grey Havens were a place of endings for many, but for Corin, they were the beginning of quiet wandering, and tonight, as the stars brightened over the western sea, his journey, gentle and unhurried, would begin. The days along the western shores passed in a rhythm older than memory, steady, unchanging, like the endless breathing of the sea. Corin had always found comfort in that. His cottage, perched quietly upon a grassy slope above the cliffs, its stone walls weathered by salt and time, its small windows looking west, always west, toward the rolling blue of the Belagare, the great sea. The mornings began with mist, cool and fine, drifting in from the water, curling softly through the wildflowers and tall grasses, painting the world in a veil of silver. Corin would step outside, pulling his worn cloak around his shoulders, his boots soft upon the dew-damp earth. The seagulls cried faintly overhead, their wings cutting through the pale sky, while the waves whispered below. Steady, unhurried, his days were simple. He tended his small garden along the cottage's stone wall, herbs for tea, a few sturdy vegetables, wild flowers that grew untamed along the edges. He patched the thatch upon his roof when storms tore at it, mended the wooden fence that lined the path to the cliffs, and stacked driftwood by the hearth to ward off the chill of the evening breeze. At times, he walked to the Grey Havens. The harbor was never busy, not as mortal ports were, but always quiet, patient, touched by the soft sorrow of partings. The tall ships bobbed gently in the tide, their sails furled, their elegant carvings glinting faintly beneath the sun. The elves moved about them with quiet grace, their voices low, their faces calm, their eyes distant. Corin watched, always watched, as one by one the ships slipped from the harbor, their white sails filling with the western wind, drifting beyond sight, beyond the curve of the world. And always, the quiet pull lingered. At night, back at his cottage, Corin would sit by the fire, a cup of tea in his hands, the small flame crackling gently in the hearth. Maps and old charts lay spread across his wooden table, aged parchment, faded ink, the edges worn soft by years of handling. The western sea stretched beyond them all, beyond even the reach of ink and guesswork. Only the curling waves, the mist, and the fading horizon remained. It was enough to settle most folk. But Corin could not quite let go of the wondering. It crept in softly, in the quiet moments between tasks, in the hush of the evening wind curling through the grasses, in the way the gulls turned west, their wings caught upon some unseen current beyond sight. The first threads of mystery drifted in gently, barely noticed at first. It began with the flowers, small, pale blossoms, white as foam, delicate as lace, blooming along the cliffs where no garden grew. They turned, ever so faintly, west. Corin knelt by them one morning, his fingers brushing their slender stems. The breeze whispered over the waves, cool, patient, carrying with it the faintest hum, softer than breath, woven into the air itself. A day later, along the path near the harbor, he noticed the stones, weathered, half buried beneath moss and grass, but marked, faint carvings, spirals, gentle curves, worn nearly to nothing, yet unmistakably shaped by hands, long gone. The next evening, at the water's edge, he found driftwood washed upon the sand, smoothed by time, sea-worn, but upon its surface, faint patterns etched beneath salt and grain. The same spirals, the same soft curling marks, as though the sea itself carried memory, quiet, steady, forgotten by most, but not gone. The western sea was changing, not loudly, not with storms or shouts, but gently, patiently. The land was remembering and quietly, inviting him to listen. Corin felt it now, the soft tug upon his heart, steady, sure, like the slow pull of the tide. And though the waves whispered no words, and the maps held no certain path, he could not deny the quiet hum that wove itself through the earth, the flowers, the stone, and the steady song of the western sea. The days passed softly along the western coast. The sun rose pale and low upon the sea, its light spilling across the endless waters, turning the crests of the waves to silver fire. Corin moved through his quiet routines, tending the garden, walking the cliffs, watching the ships. But beneath the steady rhythm of his life, the whispers continued, small, gentle things. The flowers along the cliffs bloomed in new places now, always white, always delicate, always turned toward the west, their petals trembling faintly in the salt-kissed breeze. The carved stones along the paths seemed more numerous, though Corin could not say if they had been uncovered by weather or simply revealed. At night, the waves carried faint glimmers of light far upon the water, soft and fleeting, like starlight drifting upon the tides. There one moment, gone the next. The hum beneath the earth grew stronger, still faint, still gentle, but steady, weaving itself into the breeze, the stones, the lull of the waves. It was not magic in the way of grand wizards or blazing spells. It was older, quieter, threaded deep into the land itself. And Corin, patient, quiet, steady, listened. It was on a cool evening, as twilight deepened into blue and violet across the sky, that he first saw the glow more clearly. Walking along the cliffs above the gray havens, the soft mist curling along the slopes, he paused, his eyes drawn west. There, upon the gentle swell of the sea, a light, small, drifting, not like the lanterns of fishing boats, nor the silver sails of departing elven ships. It hovered, low, upon the waves, pulsing faintly, like a star fallen softly to the water's surface. Corin watched, heart steady, breath calm. The light drifted, following the curve of the coast, toward a narrow cove hidden between the cliffs. Without haste, he followed, The grasses swayed around him, the hum threading through the earth, the sea whispering low against the rocks. The cove was a quiet place, rarely visited, its entrance narrow, its beach of pale stones curved gently between the cliffs like a secret tucked into the land. The light hovered just beyond the tide's edge, drifting above the sand, casting soft silver upon the stones. Corin approached, his footsteps measured, the medallion beneath his cloak, the one shaped like a ship, etched with spirals, pressing faintly against his chest. The glow pulsed faintly, welcoming, expectant. And upon the sand, something waited, half buried beneath smooth stones and driftwood, an object, a fragment of carved wood, small, weathered by time and salt, but unmistakably shaped, the tip of a ship's prow, graceful, elegant, its curves matching the familiar ships of the elves, yet different, older, marked with faint spirals and gentle lines that mirrored the hidden stones along the cliffs, the same patterns carried by the driftwood washed upon the shore. Corin knelt, brushing sand and stone aside, lifting the fragment carefully in his hands. It was warm, faintly, as though the sea itself had carried it long and far to this quiet place. The glow hovered above him, pulsing once, then drifting slowly toward the west, following the curve of the cove, leading. The hum beneath the earth deepened, the sea quieted, its endless breathing steady, patient. Corin followed. The path curved along the cliffs, narrow and winding, hidden from sight. And with each step, the mystery deepened, but not with fear, only quiet wonder, woven with the steady ancient breath of the land. The glow drifted ahead, soft as moonlight, steady as the tide. And Corin, with the sea at his back and the hum beneath his feet, walked gently toward what waited beyond. The hidden path curved gently along the cliffs, carved by time and tide, hidden from careless eyes. The sea whispered far below, steady and constant, its waves brushing the stones with soft, endless breath. Above, the sky deepened into twilight, painted with soft bands of gold, rose, and the faintest wash of indigo. The first quiet stars blinked awake, scattered across the darkening heavens. Corin walked slowly, his boots pressing softly upon the worn earth, the hum beneath his feet, steady now, not loud, but sure, woven through the stones, the grass, the very air itself. Ahead, the faint silver glow drifted, patient, leading him along the narrow path toward the westernmost edge of the land. There, beyond a gentle curve of the cliffs, the path opened, a hollow, tucked between the arms of the rocks, hidden from sight, forgotten by maps. A small, pebbled shore stretched before him, the sea curling gently along its edges, its waters silver beneath the soft light of the rising stars. At the center of the hollow, a stone, tall, weathered, shaped by careful, ancient hands. Its surface was marked with spirals, delicate, curling lines that wove across the stone like forgotten constellations, patterns faint, yet unmistakably crafted. The glow hovered above it now, pulsing faintly, like the steady breathing of the sea. Corin paused, the air around him still, heavy, but not with fear, with presence, the kind of presence that lingers in old places, sacred places, where memory holds fast, woven into the roots and the soil. The hum deepened beneath him, steady, low, threading through the ground, through the waves, through the very bones of the land. He approached slowly, his footsteps soft upon the shore. The stone's spirals shimmered faintly now, catching the starlight, responding as though recognizing his presence, as though remembering. Upon the sand, nestled at the base of the stone, something waited, an object, small, half buried beneath smooth pebbles and salt-kissed earth. Corin knelt, brushing the stones aside. A medallion, old, silvered by time, its edges softened, but its shape clear, a ship carved upon its surface, its sails full, its bow pointed west, forever drifting toward the unseen horizon. Around it, the same spirals, the same delicate lines that marked the standing stone, that marked the carved wood he had found upon the beach, that marked the hidden stones along the cliffs. A pattern, patient, steady, woven through the land. The medallion pulsed faintly in his hand, warm, like the steady heat of the sun upon stone, like memory stirred gently awake. The air shifted, the sea quieted, and the world held its breath. The spirals upon the standing stone glowed softly now, their light gentle, steady, not bright, but full of quiet presence. The hum rose, threading through the earth, through Corin, through the salt air, and in its steady song, a glimpse, a vision, not sharp, not overwhelming, but soft, woven like mist across the surface of the mind. He saw the sea, vast, silver blue, stretching beyond the edge of sight. Ships, slender, graceful, their sails full with steady western winds, drifting beyond the horizon, and beyond that, more, distant shores, veiled in mist, their slopes green, their forests deep, their mountains rising into cloud and starlight, a land untouched by shadow, old, patient, waiting. Valinor, the final shores, the quiet place the elves sailed toward, their hearts steady, their eyes filled with memory, their voices carrying songs too ancient for mortal tongues. The vision drifted, soft, steady, woven through the hum, through the spirals, through the land itself, and then, like the tide slipping from the shore, it faded, the hum softened, the glow dimmed, the air settled, but the presence remained, the land remembered. And now, so did Corin. The medallion rested warm in his hand, the ship upon its surface still pointed west, steady, sure, like the quiet invitation carried upon the breeze. The sea whispered low against the stones, the stars shimmered high above. The first glimpse of the mystery had come, not with answers, but with gentle wonder, with the quiet, steady promise that beyond the final shores more waited, and Corin, patient, steady, would listen. The stars wheeled softly overhead, steady and patient, as Corin made his way back along the narrow cliff path. The medallion rested warm in his palm, its ship still pointed west, its silver surface cool beneath the steady salt breeze. The hum beneath the earth had faded now, not gone, but settled, tucked gently back into the stones and the soil, waiting. The sea whispered low against the rocks below, its endless breathing steady and calm, the same song it had carried since the world was young. Corin's footsteps fell softly along the worn path, the faint glow upon the western horizon lingering like memory. The hidden hollow, the standing stone, the spirals glowing faintly in the dark. It all drifted through his mind like the steady pull of the tide, and beneath it, a quiet understanding. The mystery was not meant to be solved, not in full, not in haste. It was older than maps, older than words, woven deep into the land, patient, steady, waiting for those who listened. By the time Corin reached his small cottage above the cliffs, the stars shone clear and sharp in the dark sky, their light steady upon the sea. He settled by the fire, the low flames crackling softly, casting gentle shadows along the stone walls. The medallion lay upon the table beside him, its spirals catching the firelight, the carved ship seeming almost to drift upon its surface, forever sailing west. The hum lingered, faint now, beneath the earth, beneath the waves, beneath his skin. Corin's gaze drifted to the horizon, where the dark line of the sea met the night sky, endless, unchanged. The quiet longing that had always stirred within him, the wondering, had softened now, not gone, but settled. It was not a restless ache, but a quiet knowing that beyond the final shores, more waited. Not for conquest, not for discovery to be carried back in books and tales, but for those who walked softly, who listened, who understood that the world's oldest songs whispered only to patient hearts. Fragments of old stories wove gently through his thoughts now. Tales of the straight road, the hidden path upon the sea, unseen by mortal eyes. The road the elves sailed when they departed the gray havens, their ships gliding silently beyond the curve of the world. The stories spoke of Valinor, the Undying Lands, a place so touched by shadow, where the light of the two trees still lingered, where songs never faded, where memory was carried not upon the tongue, but upon the land itself. Corin thought of the elves, their steady eyes, their quiet voices, their peaceful steps as they boarded their ships. Their gazes turned west, not with regret, but with gentle certainty. They had always known, and now, in his own quiet way, so did he. The standing stone, the spirals, the soft hum, the vision of distant shores veiled in mist. They were not answers, sharp and clear. They were invitations. The land remembered, and it called softly to those who listened. Corin's eyes drifted closed, the fire warming his skin, the steady song of the waves filling the quiet. The sea would wait, the land would wait, and beyond the final shores, the memory of what once was and what still waited remained. The morning arrived slowly upon the western shores. The sun crept above the sea in soft hues of silver and gold, casting long bands of light across the endless waves. The grasses upon the cliffs swayed gently in the cool breeze, and the steady hum of the earth, though faint, lingered just beneath the quiet rhythm of the world. Corin walked the worn coastal paths, his steps measured, his eyes steady upon the west. The medallion rested beneath his cloak, its warmth subtle now, like the memory of the hum woven gently against his heart. The world was unchanged, and yet everything within him had shifted. The glimpse of the hidden hollow, the glowing spirals, the quiet song of the land, All of it breathed with him now, steady and patient. And as he walked, the first soft signs of companionship stirred upon the road. It began with a voice, low, melodic, carrying an old song upon the breeze, words woven in Elvish, gentle, filled with sorrow and memory. Corin paused upon the path, his gaze lifting toward a stand of ancient oaks where the cliffs dipped toward a sheltered glen. There, seated upon a moss-covered stone, was an elf, tall and slender, their cloak the gray of mist, their hair dark as river water, their eyes calm and steady beneath the quiet sky. They were mending something, a simple pack resting upon their knees, their fingers moving with patient ease as they sang softly to themselves, the words drifting like old leaves upon the air. Corin approached without sound, his footsteps light, his presence unhidden. The elf looked up as he drew near, their eyes meeting his with quiet recognition, not of name, but of understanding. "You've seen it," they said softly, their voice like water flowing over stone. Corin nodded, his hand resting lightly upon the medallion hidden beneath his cloak. "The Western song," he replied simply. The elf smiled faintly, their gaze drifting toward the horizon. "The land remembers," they whispered, "and those who walk softly remember with it." Their name was Kalen, one of the wandering Eldar, lingering yet upon the mortal shores, walking the old places, listening to the hum that threaded through the soil and stone. Together, they walked the path west. Their words were few, their steps unhurried, their hearts steady. Along the way, they shared quiet stories, tales of the First Age, of the ships that sailed beyond the sight of men, of the forgotten songs hidden beneath moss and root. Kalen spoke of the thinning veil, of how the world grew softer now, the land whispering its oldest memories more freely, the final shores drawing near. At a bend in the path, they met another, a Dunedain ranger, cloaked in greens and browns, his face weathered by wind and years, his eyes steady and knowing. He watched them with quiet curiosity as they approached, his hand resting lightly upon the hilt of his sword, not with threat, but with care. When he saw the medallion at Corin's chest, his expression softened. "You walk the western road," the ranger observed, his voice low, like the hush of leaves upon the wind. Corin nodded, and Kalen smiled faintly beside him. The ranger introduced himself as Eladir, one of the last of his line to linger along these forgotten coasts, watching the edges of the world, carrying the old knowledge that few remembered now. They shared the road together, three quiet souls bound by the gentle hum of the land, their steps weaving through the wild grasses, their words drifting beneath the steady breathing of the sea. And as they walked, the Western song hummed low beneath them, steady, patient, the land remembering, and they too remembering with it. The sun slipped low beyond the sea, casting the western sky in soft bands of crimson and gold. The small camp nestled between the sheltering hills, hidden from the cool evening wind, the distant hush of waves weaving through the stillness. A fire crackled low, its flame steady, casting faint shadows upon the grass. Corin, Kalen, and Eladir sat quietly beside it, the gentle glow painting their faces, their cloaks drawn close, their voices low. The sky above stretched vast and dark, scattered with the steady shimmer of stars, the same stars that had watched the world since the first age. Patient, unchanging, for a time, they sat in silence, listening to the steady song of the waves, to the soft rustle of the grasses, to the low hum of the earth still breathing beneath them. And then, as the firelight flickered upon their faces, the stories came. Kalen's voice drifted softly into the stillness, their words woven with memory. They say, when the firstborn awoke beneath the stars, long before men, long before shadow or sorrow, the land itself sang to them. Their eyes lifted to the sky, the ancient constellations reflecting faintly in their steady gaze. The Eldar heard the song of the trees, the rivers, the stones, and they followed it west, always west, to where the light lingered beyond the edges of the world. Corin listened, his heart quiet, the medallion resting warm against his chest, its spirals glowing faintly in the fire's reflection. Ellidyr added his voice, low and steady. And those who could not find the straight road with ships, they say, the land kept its own memory for them. Hidden paths, forgotten stones, carved signs left by hands long gone. He drew a small, weathered stone from his pouch, its surface marked with faint spirals, nearly lost to time. Found this along the cliffs, same as you, I imagine, he said, his gaze drifting to Corin. The fire crackled softly, the flames steady, the stories lingering like mist upon the air. They spoke of Numenor, the lost isle, of its proud people sailing east, of their ships swallowed by the sea, of the memory that still drifted upon the tides. They spoke of the straight road, unseen by mortal eyes, the hidden path that carried ships west, beyond the curve of the world, to Valinor, the Undying Lands. And they spoke of the quiet thinning, how the world grew softer now, how the old songs whispered more clearly to those who walked with care, how the land itself remembered. As they spoke, the stars brightened overhead, their steady glow mirrored upon the sea. The fire softened to warm embers, the waves whispered low against the shore, and the stories, like the hum beneath the earth, wove gently through them all. The land remembered, and beneath the steady gaze of the stars, so did they. The dawn arrived slowly, spilling silver light across the hills and cliffs. The sea stretched out like glass beneath the waking sky. The small camp was quiet now, their fire long faded to cool ash, the faint hum of the land whispering beneath their feet. Corin, Kalen, and Ellidyr broke camp in silence, their hearts steady, their eyes turned west, where the horizon called with quiet certainty. The path they followed curved gently along the cliffs, hidden from sight, forgotten by most, but not by the land, and not by those who walked softly enough to hear. The medallion rested warm beneath Corin's cloak, its spirals pulsing faintly with each slow step, the carved ship forever sailing west upon its surface. They spoke little as they walked. The wind carried the steady breath of the sea, cool and constant. The grasses swayed along the path, whispering softly, and ahead, the land shifted. The cliffs fell away to a wide hollow, cradled between low hills and ancient stones. At the center of the hollow, a pool. Still and dark, its surface mirrored the sky, reflecting the pale morning clouds drifting above. But it was not the water alone that drew them forward. Upon the stones surrounding the pool, spirals, carved faintly, old, their lines weaving like forgotten constellations across the weathered surfaces. The hum deepened, not loud, but steady, patient, as though the earth itself exhaled, welcoming them home. Kalen's eyes softened. "This is one of the hidden places," they whispered, "where the land remembers." Elidir's hand brushed the carvings, his expression calm. "I've heard the stories," he murmured, "but never seen." Corin stepped closer, the medallion pulsing softly in his palm. The pool reflected the sky, but beneath its surface, the faint shimmer of light, like stars drifting upon hidden tides. The air grew still, the sea beyond hushed its song, and the world held its breath. Corin knelt beside the pool, the medallion warm against his skin, its spirals glowing faintly in the silver light. The hum deepened, threading through the stones, the water, the soil, and within it, the oldest song of the West. The pool shimmered softly now, and upon its surface, the glimpse returned, a vision, gentle, woven with memory. The sea, endless and silver blue, stretching west beyond the sight of mortal eyes. The ships, their sails full, their bows steady, drifting beyond the curve of the world. And beyond, veiled in soft mist, the final shores. Valinor, the Undying Lands, the place the elves sailed toward, their hearts calm, their voices carrying songs too ancient for words. The vision pulsed gently, not sharp, not overwhelming, but steady, certain, and with it, understanding. The mystery had never been hidden in cruelty or haste. It had only been waiting for those who walked softly enough to listen, for those who understood that wonder lingers not in answers, but in quiet knowing. The pool stilled, the vision faded, but the hum, the song, remained. The land remembered, and now, so did they. The path west was not for all to walk, but its promise, its presence, breathed steady within the land, within the sea, within the hearts of those who listened. Together they stood, their gazes turned west, their hearts full, not with longing, but with quiet peace. The final shores were not lost, they were waiting, and that was enough. The path led them back along the cliffs, the sea whispering low against the rocks, the soft light of late afternoon resting upon the waves. Corin walked with quiet steps, the medallion cool against his chest, its spirals faint now. The hum of the earth settled, calm, steady, patient. The western song still lingered, woven through the grasses, the stones, the endless breath of the sea. But the longing, the restless ache, had softened now. It had never truly been about answers, only listening, only remembering. The final shores would always be there, waiting beyond the curve of the world, veiled in mist and song, untouched by haste, unchanged by time. But here, along these quiet paths, within the steady hum of Middle Earth, a piece of that wonder lingered still. The stones, the soil, the steady song of the land, all whispered gently to those who slowed, to those who listened. The sun slipped low toward the horizon, its pale light curling upon the sea, the first soft stars blinking awake above. Kalen and Eladir walked with him for a time longer, and then, with quiet words and steady smiles, they drifted onward, their own paths woven softly into the west. Corin returned to his small cottage above the cliffs, the sea stretching endless beyond the windows, the grasses swaying low along the worn stone path. The evening settled gently over the land. The fire crackled softly in the hearth. The waves breathed steady against the shore, and the hum, low, patient, wove quietly through the earth. Corin's eyes drifted closed. The land remembered, and now, so did he, and you, my friend, listening quietly, drifting gently toward sleep. You too carry that memory now. No need to chase it, no need to hurry. The songs of the West, the whispers of the final shores, they wait, patient as the stars, steady as the sea. So rest now. Let your body grow heavy, your thoughts quiet, your dreams carried softly upon the western wind. The land remembers, and wonder is never far. Good night, sleep well, and let the West keep watch